Good morning. We just wait a couple more minutes and make sure that everyone's logged on. Good morning. Just one more minute. We'll just make sure that everyone's ready to start. Okay. Looks like it's going to be a lovely day. Just one more minute and we'll start. Hello, good morning, everyone. I think we're good to start now. Hi, my name's Gillian Layden. I'm from Metapack, and I'd like to welcome you to Trading Through Disruption, 7 Keys to Retail Stability in the COVID Era. I just want to draw your attention to the Ask a Question box. Please feel free throughout the webinar to add questions for our presenters to answer during the Q&A at the end. I'd now like to hand you over to my colleagues so that the webinar can begin. Introducing Duncan Licence, VP Product and Partnerships at Metapack. Duncan leads the Metapack retail product team, where he is responsible for creating and delivering the vision and strategy for the evolution of Metapack's products. Joining him is Mariet van Uden, Director of Technical Product Management at Metapack. Mariet spent the earliest part of her career working in third-party logistics. Prior to her current role at Metapack, she was the program manager responsible for delivering a multi-year program implementing one of Metapack's largest customers. She is now responsible for delivering the vision for our evolving platform. Because of this wealth of knowledge, Mariet has the perfect combination of operational and technical knowledge on how some of the stuff we're going to talk about today really works. So without further delay, let's start the webinar.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Gillian. I appreciate it. And good morning to everyone. It's really a pleasure to be talking to you today. Let's start by talking very briefly about who Metapack is. Metapack is a software as a service company, and we help retailers and brands create compelling, incredible customer delivery experiences. We work with over 500 of the world's largest retailers who use our carrier platform to attract and retain more customers and manage their cost to serve. Our enterprise-grade tech supports retailers like Louis Vuitton, Adidas, H&M, ASOS, and many others to create, deliver, and track over 700 million parcels each year. Our product set includes delivery options, which helps you increase your conversion and reduce basket abandonment in the checkout and on the product page. Our shipping product helps you connect to 480 of the world's carriers through a single integration point, which reduces your carrier costs and speed to market. Our tracking and returns products allow you to bring beautiful branded experiences into the post-purchase space, helping you manage costs and create customer loyalty. Our reporting products allow you to understand your shipping trends and the performance of your parcel carriers. And finally, our support product helps you maintain your operation 24/7. Let's move on to the next slide. So let's talk briefly through the agenda we have today. I'm going to talk for a little about some of the challenges that we see amongst the Metapack customer base. The COVID crisis is unprecedented, really. And we're seeing a lot of the Metapack customer base use our technology and some of their own capabilities to meet these challenges in really interesting ways. Mariet is then going to take off the 7 things that we've seen across our customers that we would like to share with you today in order to help you understand how you might navigate this crisis. And then finally, I'll talk again briefly around how we think we can help you and how we're uniquely positioned to help you. At the end, as Gillian said, we'll be doing some questions and answers, and you should feel free to jot down your questions in the text box on the side. So let's start with the problem, the opportunity, if you will, for some that this creates. I think one of the most remarkable impacts on retail from the COVID crisis is the massive shift to the online channels. Across the Metapack platform, we have seen in excess of 30% more shipments, and on some days, we're seeing peak-like trading volumes of over 3 million shipments a day. Of course, this increase in volume isn't evenly spread across all verticals. Over the last 4 weeks, we've seen health and beauty increase by as much as 127%, sports and department stores increase by 100%, and toys and marketplaces increase by more than 50%. For the vast majority of Metapack's customers, there is a significant and meaningful shift from their stores and their other channels into their online channels. This has created a massive challenge, a significant challenge for those retailers who are increasingly squeezed between this huge uptick in demand and also the constrained operational resources that I'll talk about in a minute. Managing busier warehouses in a time of social distancing creates new challenges, with lots of customers unable to pick and pack fast enough to meet the demand that they're now seeing. Our parcel carriers are also struggling to meet this demand. Some Metapack customers are seeing parcel carriers limit their collection capacity in order to preserve their service levels, and other carriers are prioritizing essential retailers. Most customers have seen an unprecedented increase in customer contacts. One of Metapack's larger customers has seen more than 300% more contacts into their contact center, all of whom are asking, "Where is my order?" And interestingly, the majority of that 300% is happening before the order was even meant to be delivered. Of course, the shift to online is in part because many retailers have been forced to close their stores. Just over half of Metapack's customers have closed their stores across the world, and in the UK, that's up to 60% of all retailers have closed some or all of their stores. Where stores have remained open, there is a significant drop in footfall across the board. There's no doubting that this has hit retailers really hard. Many generate the majority of their revenue from stores, and for those like Primark who don't have an online channel to fall back onto, this has meant the temporary closure of their entire business. This is costing retailers like Primark an estimated £650 million each month they remain closed. Retailers like H&M and Adidas have stopped paying rent to their landlords in some markets, and other retailers are looking to CVAs for protection from their creditors and landlords. With stores closed and footfall down, the inventory that is held in stores, whether that's on the shelves or in the back offices of stores, is very quickly depreciating. The spring line in a fashion retailer can't be sold in summer. March's latest trainer will be out of vogue any day now, and the winter version of that TV will be out of date when the next version hits the shelf. Some retailers are moving inventory from stores back into their fulfillment centers. However, with many retailers' warehouses already overwhelmed, this isn't practical for many. Retailers are looking for innovative ways to sell the inventory that is stuck in stores and to use their store estates to keep trading. Mariet will talk later about this trend and how I think we can help. The introduction of social distancing measures has far-reaching consequences for both retailers and parcel carriers. Metapack has seen 6% of all of its customers close some or all of their warehouses. Many customers have closed warehouses in Italy, France, and Spain. Retailers like River Island have closed all their warehousing capability, but good news means they've just opened it this week again. However, that follows a full reconfiguration to include social distancing, and with the introduction of things like one-way aisles and reduced staffing. Amazon has slowed down the shipping of non-essential items, and customers like ASOS have rapidly reconfigured their warehouse to make sure that they can keep trading in this difficult time. Parcel carriers have also struggled to respond to the social distancing measures. Signed for services are now typically photographs, and there are issues with fraud that come with that. Drop-off locations are closed in lots of reasons. In France and Italy and Spain in particular, we're seeing the mass closure, albeit temporarily, of drop-off locations, which means more and more parcels are now being delivered to home than ever before. However, we're also seeing an uptick in interest in locker services. For example, here in the UK, InPost is experiencing a surge in demand because locker services are contact-free and obviously are socially distant. I don't know about you, but I'm certainly feeling a lot more love for the people that help deliver things to my house, keep my kids entertained, and me in the essentials. However, in these difficult times, retailers are facing existential challenges. The combination of a sudden and severe shift in consumer behavior with these incredible constraints on operating capacity means that some retailers are really struggling to keep trading. We've seen a number of high-profile retailers stumble. Within the UK, retailers like Debenhams and Topshop declaring going into administration or seeking state aid. And in Germany, big retailers like Galeria Karstadt also seeking state aid. I suspect that's not the last we'll hear of this. And unfortunately, the reconfiguration of retail is only accelerating as a result of this crisis. When you take a step back and look at the problem from the customer's point of view, what you see is a meaningful shift in buying behavior, that shift from store to online that I talked about before. However, comfortingly, consumers tell us that their needs haven't actually changed all that much. Consumers tell us that they value a good experience, with 37% of customers telling us that they will not shop again at a retailer if they have a poor or suboptimal experience. More than half, almost 2/3 of retailers tell us that free delivery is the most important delivery consideration for them. However, most of those are also prepared to pay for expedited or premium services if they want. And in returns, consumers rather tell us that they are very likely to shop with a site that makes returns process easier. And we'll talk later in this webinar about how returns, and in particular refunds, drive consumer behavior. In many ways, I think the crisis of 2020 is simply accelerating some of the trends that we've seen in retail over the last 20 years. Whether it's direct-to-consumer and pure play, and some traditional retailers being incredibly well placed to continue to adjust and to move with this changing behavior, or retailers continuing to struggle to meet this massive demand, the incredible customer expectations, and now more than ever, the challenging unit economics of e-commerce. This crisis will create clear winners and losers, where retailers are able to meet this challenge with urgency and agility. I think there is an opportunity to come out of this crisis stronger. We'd like to think that most, if not all, of MetaPack's customers will come out of this stronger and ready to deal with the transformation that we expect to accelerate. To help you navigate some of these challenges, I'm going to hand over to Mariet, who will talk you through 7 of the most compelling trends we've seen in e-commerce, fulfillment, and shipping from our customer base. Over to you, Mariet.
Thank you, Duncan. So today we'll talk to you about the 7 things that underpin the ability to keep trading and to make customers happy. All of these pertain to some part of the delivery or the delivery experience from your customers. And we'll look at a bit in depth at all of these in the next slides. Starting with the starting point of the customer journey, the checkout agility. As the delivery landscape is rapidly evolving, and with many physical locations closed, some services have become obsolete. Think, for example, of pickup point services or click and collect. Our customers tell us that the majority of them have had to close some or all of their stores. In combination with a greater emphasis placed on delivery options that minimize contact, such as the contactless delivery, it becomes ever more important to manage the expectations of your customer throughout the process. If we look at the points there, we'll start with the up-to-date delivery information. It becomes ever more important to manage the expectation of the customer with regards to the delivery information during the shopping experience, in the checkout, or even on the product pages, but also continuously during the processes. One of the benefits of that is to minimize the number of questions and complaints that hit, for example, your contact centers. As Duncan explained earlier, consumers haven't changed their needs. They still find it incredibly important to have a range of options that suits their needs and to get accurate and up-to-date delivery information. A good example of this is the increase in demand for rapid deliveries, such as same day or next day, for example, to facilitate lifeline or medication deliveries. In addition to that, I'm sure you're all aware that safety has become an incredible focus point, both for retailers and consumers. It's a constant focus, and the ability to adapt to the ever-changing circumstances are incredibly important. The ability to switch off options and to do this in an agile manner is also needed to adapt to the ever-changing circumstances in the delivery process. For example, sudden increases in sick leave can change the capacity in your warehouse. The ability to manage that by dynamically switching off or adding options becomes incredibly important to manage both demand from your warehouses as well as your carriers. So let's look a bit more at how we try to leverage those stores. With a lot of stores closed, we know that retailers are struggling to pick, pack, ship, and create all the capacity that they need to fulfill the demand. However, stores can still be leveraged to create value. Our customers tell us that they want to use their stores as, for example, as shipping locations. Some are even reconfiguring their stores to ensure that their stores are fit for that purpose. By using those stores to keep trading, you can make it really efficient for local deliveries. For example, you can focus on the last mile delivery. At the same time, to Duncan's point earlier, this allows you to keep moving stock. Stock that otherwise would age and decrease in value can now be moved to local consumers. This also makes the first legs of the journey far more efficient. Imagine that you can ship at the local deliveries in one go to a store instead of having to pick, pack, and ship all those deliveries separately to consumers in a network that's already overheated. To talk a bit more about that, about the aspect of carriers in the market, we've looked at the agility and the challenges that they face. As significant challenges in the market happen, disruption is inevitable. What we see is that that disruption doesn't happen evenly across networks. It often pertains to specific geographical locations, service levels, or can even be temporary. The combination of heightened demand as well as expectations from customers in combination with lower capacity and a heightened pressure to deliver makes relying on a single service a high risk for a retailer. Retailers must diversify, and the multi-carrier integration gives additional layers of protection if services get disrupted. When you have multiple carrier integrations, this gives you a number of benefits. It gives retailers the access to remote inventory and enables the delivery across borders, for example, from warehouses in other markets. The difference between a good and a bad experience and impact on your trust and loyalty from your customer can all weigh on having the right services at the right time. In addition to that, it becomes more important to make the right carrier service choice at the point of selection. As the tools become more, you need to ensure you have the tools to dynamically manage the selection of customers and to change that dynamically. For the more technically minded among us, preferably without having to go through the full development cycle that takes time, effort, and brings complexity. Let's have a look at carrier performance and how you can use that to your advantage. Understanding the current carrier performance and where issues are is key to understanding where some of the issues in your network may occur, and to enable you to work with the carriers who are struggling so that you can help them to help you. Identifying the weak spots in your delivery network. For example, being able to show weak spots in the delivery network in a specific geographical location with specific product types or weights of shipments, help you to zoom in on the details and granular issues that might affect your customer's experience. That data can then be used to come back to the point I started with, at managing the expectations in the checkout. For example, if I live in an area where disruption is very heavy and no non-essential deliveries are possible, I'd like to know that at the point when I access a website and go through the checkout, not during the experience when I'm already expecting my order to be on the way. The other benefit this gives you is that you will be able to manage your delivery exceptions as they occur. By having visibility of exceptions that happen and issues that might affect your customers, you will be able to proactively contact them, which will increase their loyalty and their trusting you as a retailer, while simultaneously reducing questions to your contact centers or other channels. I'd like to move on then to the next slide, which talks a bit more about continuity. So, as we've seen, there is major disruption to warehousing and carrier networks. We've all seen the messages in the media around, for example, the strikes in the Amazon warehouses, making it challenging to keep those operations going. As the health and safety aspect becomes more important and retailers are doing everything they can to protect both their staff and their consumers, the risk of warehouse closures becomes a real concern for retailers. This then impacts the ability to serve customers and therefore impact the loyalty and revenue possibilities that you have. By introducing creative solutions such as ship from store, cross-border deliveries, and multi-carrier integration, the risk of disruption decreases and you can keep trading. I'll hand back over to Duncan now, who will talk to you a bit about self-service and returns.
Mariet?
Yes?
Can you put yourself on mute? We're getting some feedback from you. All right. So now that Mariet spent some time talking through the various aspects of fulfillment and carriers and managing their performance, I'm going to talk about our last two of the 7, which is all in the post-ship space. I said earlier, many of our customers have seen the demand of inbound contacts into their contact centers, whether those are calls or emails or chat messages, increase by up to 300%. This is in part due to the massive increase in volumes in the online channels, but also is because customers are at home, they're anxious, and they're waiting for their products. At the same time, I think customers continue to raise their expectations, and the number of contacts per order is consistently increasing and has done for many years. Unmanaged, these contacts and the ability for retailers to serve them means that we can end up with frustrated customers and lost loyalty and increased costs in the contact center, as many retailers struggle to recruit and retain the resources required to serve these contacts. I think it's incredibly critical now more than ever that retailers and brands work hard to create self-service capabilities in the post-purchase space. In the context of tracking, that means giving consumers the ability to answer the question, where is my order, themselves, in a way that doesn't overwhelm your contact center. I think it's incredibly important to do that in a way that helps you manage and even reduce your costs, and allowing your contact team to focus on serving the more complex and more challenging cases, and also to use them to create loyalty rather than just to defend the situation you're in. Doing that in a way that helps brand the messaging and the customer experience that meets your needs is important. Multiple carriers often mean an inconsistent approach to delivery messaging and the post-trip experience. Carrier A will send a text message, carrier B will send an email, carrier C has, an incomprehensible and very difficult website to navigate. There are lots of tools out there that allow you to create a branded experience and to simplify that messaging so that consumers have consistency, but also have the confidence that you are in control of the post-trip space. In much the same way, returns is incredibly important to drive customer confidence and loyalty, but also to help you manage your costs. The social distancing and operating capacity issues we discussed earlier are impacting customers' ability to return products and your ability to process them just as severely as in the outbound space. And most importantly, customers are being impacted in their ability to receive their refund. Consumers consistently tell us that they want more returns options. And with lots of PUDOs, lots of drop-off locations closed at the moment, we would urge you to look at your returns portfolio to make sure that you offer your customers the choices they want, whether that be a postal service or, as I said earlier, a locker box service. Making sure that you present those to the consumer in a way that gives them choice is incredibly important. Managing the cost of returns has always been important, but is never more important than now. And this is particularly important in cross-border returns. When you give consumers returns options, I think it's entirely acceptable to give them a free return option, but maybe to offer them a premium or convenient option, but ask the customer to pay for that. And in the cross-border space, I would urge you to work with a consolidator who can help you navigate the extremely challenging international freight market. And finally, I think it's essential that you don't delay customer refunds. If a customer has decided to return a product, they've decided that they want their money back. And customers consistently tell us that retailers that delay refunds, even for legitimate operational reasons, fall down in the customer's expectations, and they will go and shop elsewhere. This creates a challenge in terms of understanding what product has been returned and how it's been returned. And there are technology solutions out there, some of which are from Metapack, who can help you understand and navigate that space to create a good experience, to know what products are coming back, to manage returns and refunds, but also to manage and control the cost of returns. So to recap, the 7 things that we talked about were increasing checkout agility, making sure that you can switch on and off services really easy and respond to the challenges that we're seeing in the logistics networks today. We talked about making sure that you could leverage your stores to introduce ship from store, or using the inventory in stores to make sure you can serve customers. We talked about making sure you used multi-carrier to introduce resiliency, both in terms of the service provision, but also to introduce services like cross-border, which means you can serve existing markets even when warehouses in those markets are closed. We talked about using tooling to make sure you understand carrier performance and working with carriers to understand and work around the inevitable challenges that many carriers are experiencing at the moment with this huge uptick in demand. All of those things roll up into making sure that you're able to continue to fulfill your customers' promises, that you can meet the needs of what your customers want without having to switch your business off or degrade your business. That's never more important than when so many stores are closed or footfall is so low. And the final 2 points, we talked about how making sure the post-purchase experience was well organized, branded, gave consumers choice, made sure that it was in the tone of voice that you would like, but also, and most importantly, I think, allows you to control the cost to serve in your contact center and also in returns. I think Metapack is very well placed to help you navigate the shipping and fulfillment challenges of this crisis. Our proven technology can keep you trading by reducing the number of single points of failure and helping you ramp up to meet new demand and even in new markets. We can help you reduce your cost to serve by introducing self-service tracking and returns and proactively managing your parcel carriers. We can also help you work with locker box providers like InPost and your cross-border challenges for returns. Using your stores and store inventory, like Metapack customers Michaels or Louis Vuitton, you can introduce ship from store quickly and easily to make sure that you reduce the impact of markdowns, but also to improve the resiliency of your e-commerce operation. Helping you work with parcel carriers to manage the supply and demand and service levels that you expect, and ultimately to make sure that you meet the promise that you've made to customers in the checkout is incredibly important if you want to retain those customers and keep them coming back. Thank you so much for listening today. I really hope you feel better equipped to help your business come out of this crisis stronger. I will now hand over to Gillian, who will take over some Q&A.
Hi, all. We hope you found that insightful. We'd now like to address questions submitted from the audience. If you haven't right now submitted something, you can go ahead and do that. I will still take a look at those and fit as many in as possible. Okay, so the first question to Duncan and Mariet is, what are the sorts of challenges you expect when making ship from store available?
I'll take that one, Mariet, if you don't mind. Obviously, by all means, add anything if you feel like I've missed it.
Sure.
Ship from store can be an incredibly simple thing to operate. However, for big, complex enterprise retailers, also scales into a complex situation quite quickly. I think some of the fundamentals are you need to be able to take an order and route it to the place you want to ship it from. That's traditionally done by an order management platform, and most retailers will have some capability in the space. But I know that some of Metapack's partners are very keen to help you if you can't, and I'm certain we can introduce. Once the order is in store, you need to be able to pick and pack it and select a carrier, print a carrier label, and take care of manifesting that, sending that data to the carrier and the collection request. That's the area where Metapack can help you. There are some prerequisites. You will obviously need to make sure that you have the relevant equipment, the physical equipment in store, which can be as simple as having a printer and an internet-connected PC. Doing it at scale requires a bit more nuance, but for most retailers, getting started with a ship from store can be that simple. There is the challenge of making sure that you have worked with your carrier partners to organize collections and obviously the account details and the contracts required to do that. Metapack has talked to many of the world's largest carriers about this, and we know the carriers are predominantly quite keen to work with retailers to serve you. Again, if you struggle with this or want help navigating this space, Metapack can help. We work with all of these carriers, and we're certain to be able to make an introduction for you. Mariet, do you think I missed anything there?
I think that's a no, Duncan.
No, thank you, Duncan. I think that was pretty comprehensive.
Super. Okay, so moving on to the next question. You mentioned the increased volumes in health and beauty, sports, etc. What levels of increase are you seeing in the two-man delivery market?
Mariet, do you want to take that or shall I?
Sure. I can take it, and feel free to add something if you want. So what we're seeing for two-man delivery specifically is that a number of retailers as well as carriers has taken steps to reduce the carriage of bulky items, mainly to optimize the capacity that they have in their delivery networks as well as their warehouses. I'm not aware of any increase in two-man deliveries during the current crisis. I would more expect a decrease.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And actually, there's a really interesting data point from one of Metapac's customers who tell us that the carrier that they typically use to deal with their big and bulky things is severely constraining their collections in order to manage their ability to deliver at the service levels they've committed to. So I think the two-man carrier market is struggling just as much, if not more, than the parcel or post networks to meet the uptick in demand.
Cool. Okay, so the next one up is how specifically do you help manage carrier performance?
I'll take that one. It's a great question. It's probably worth. We're a technology business, and we partner with as I said earlier, 450 of the world's largest carriers. What we don't currently do is manage those carriers on your behalf, except for in a few instances like international returns. And so we don't manage the performance of carriers specifically. What we do is provide retailers with the tools, reporting and insight and data to help them have rich conversations with their carriers. Those conversations, if they're set in the right tone, don't necessarily have to be confrontational. I think carriers know where they're performing and where they're not performing. And I think retailers need to be able to create a sense of transparency around that and work with their carriers to create an optimal configuration. Every carrier knows what a perfect parcel looks like. And if retailers are putting parcels that are outsized or difficult for that carrier to deliver, it does create service level issues. Where there are issues in specific regions, as Mariet talked about before, it's with the Metapack system, it's relatively easy to move the volume away from one carrier to another for that area. And when service and performance returns to normal, to switch it back again. So I think the technology we have allows you to have a richer conversation with your carriers, and also in the delivery options and the shipping platform space to move the volume and how you direct the volume around in a much more dynamic way. I think that's probably, it's clear. Crucial, the two takeaways really are, we're a technology business. We enable you to have better conversations with your carriers. What we won't currently do is work with the carriers you contract with and go and have that conversation with them on your behalf.
Cool. Okay, I think one more question. I've got one about tracking. How does the self-service tracking work?
This is one of Metapac's newest products. We launched it earlier this year at the delivery conference. Most of you on this webinar, I imagine, will be familiar with that event. The delivery tracker product, which is our tracking product, is essentially a branded tracking portal that allows the retailer to configure the branding and the look and feel of it to their style, and so that it represents their brand. And when consumers come onto the portal, it tells them where their parcel is in the journey. It works for multiple parcels. It normalizes and standardizes all of the messaging that comes out of carriers so that you create that consistent experience regardless of which carrier is delivering the parcel. But just as importantly, the product introduces a bunch of features that help you communicate with your customers, engage with your customers, and drive traffic back from the tracking portal into your website. And so we have a whole range of features around advertising and messaging and communication that we think help you create a compelling experience in the post-purchase space. It's probably worth pointing out that we also have some other products in the space. We can send you the tracking data, which many of our customers use in their own internal reporting tools or in their customer services applications, their CRM systems, for example. And we are working on, at the moment, an API, a tracking API, which will present that same standardized, normalized data set to you in a dynamic way via an API. I'm hoping for that to launch later this year.
Excellent. Thanks, Duncan. Thanks, Mariet. There are a couple of questions about whether the slides and transcripts will be available after the webinar. Now, this is being recorded, so you will be able to watch this video on demand after finish, hopefully a bit later today. So just to wrap things up, thank you for taking the time to listen to the presentation, Trading Through Disruption, 7 Keys to Retail Stability in the COVID Era. If you're an existing MetaPack customer and like to find out more about what we've talked about today, please do contact your account manager and they'll share their insights. If not, you can find more COVID-related resources on the MetaPack website via the link on the screen at the moment. Just one final note, MetaPack will be running another pandemic-related webinar next Wednesday, the 29th of April, on what e-commerce might look like once this is all over. Stay tuned for details. They'll be released soon. And just one last thank you again for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the webinar and look forward to you joining us for more insights next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.